The average American home now contains over 300,000 items, and 1 in 10 U.S. households pays for an off-site storage unit just to hold the excess. Meanwhile, in Japan, where homes are often half the size, you rarely ever see a self-storage facility. No overflowing closets, no garages packed with forgotten boxes, no kitchen counters drowning in gadgets. And here is the part that always stops me. Despite having less physical space per person, Japanese homes feel twice as open, twice as peaceful, and twice as easy to maintain. This is not because Japanese people are naturally tidier or somehow immune to the pull of consumerism. It is because they have quietly been using a set of principles, ancient and modern, that completely shift how you see your home, your belongings, and your own mind. Today, I am going to share the 6 Japanese principles that changed my home forever, in a countdown from 6 to 1, each one building on the last. Some of these are so simple they will shock you. Others are so genius you will wonder why no one ever told you. If you have ever felt overwhelmed by your space, if you have ever felt like your home is a source of stress rather than a sanctuary, these 6 shifts are going to change everything. Let us begin. Principle number 6, Hara Hachibu for your home. Now you might know Hara Hachibu as the Okinawan eating practice of stopping at 80% full. But I discovered that this same spirit applies beautifully to the objects you allow into your living space. The Japanese term is a variation of that philosophy, and it translates roughly to an 80% capacity rule. The surprising twist is that your home does not need to be empty to feel spacious. It simply needs to never exceed 4/5 of its true capacity. When you walk into a typical Japanese apartment, you notice the difference immediately. Bookshelves are not crammed, cabinets have breathing room, and surfaces are not staging areas for piles of paper. This is not an accident. It is a deliberate choice to leave room for life itself. The mechanism is simple, but backed by cognitive psychology. A cluttered environment continuously sends signals to your brain about unfinished tasks, unprocessed items, and visual chaos, draining your mental energy without you even realizing it. In one landmark study from the UCLA Center on Everyday Lives of Families, researchers found that women who described their homes as cluttered or full of unfinished projects had significantly elevated cortisol levels throughout the day compared to those whose homes felt restful. The visual noise literally taxes your hormones. When you intentionally stop at 80% capacity, you eliminate that constant low-grade stress without having to throw away everything you own. Another set of studies from the Princeton University Neuroscience Institute demonstrated that the human visual cortex struggles to separate relevant stimuli from irrelevant clutter when a field of view is overloaded. Your brain is working overtime just to filter out the static of too many objects, which leaves less energy for focus, creativity, and emotional regulation. So each overstuffed shelf is not just messy, it is actively fatiguing you, stealing quiet pockets of your mental clarity all day long. I first stumbled onto this during a homestay in Kyoto. My host mother had a small kitchen, maybe half the size of a typical American one. Yet she never once opened a cabinet and had something fall out. The morning light would stream through the narrow window above the sink, catching the steam from the rice cooker, and everything felt intentional. There was a single wooden tray with 3 cups on the counter, a small ceramic vase with a single branch of cherry blossoms in the corner, and absolutely nothing else. One evening, I asked her how she managed it, and she looked almost confused by the question. She said, "We just do not fill things up all the way." That sentence stuck with me. The next day, I went back to the tiny guest room they had given me and took her advice. I removed about 1/3 of the items from the closet, a few decorations from the shelves, and half the books from the nightstand, and I did not even get rid of them. I just moved them into a storage box under the bed. Instantly, the room exhaled. It felt bigger, yes, but more than that, I felt my own shoulders drop. The air seemed to move differently. The light from the paper lantern suddenly had room to spread across the wall. I had never noticed how the density of things had been pressing in on me until I created that empty space. Now, I want to be honest about something so you do not take this too far. The 80% capacity rule is not about deprivation, and it is not about turning your home into a sterile white box that looks like a showroom nobody lives in. Some people, when they first hear this, go to an extreme and strip every surface bare, then feel cold and unwelcomed in their own space. That is not the spirit of Hara Hachibu. The goal is breathing room, not emptiness. If you love books, fill a bookshelf, but leave one shelf with just a single framed photo and some open space. If you love cooking, keep your favorite pans hung where you can see them. But let the counter beside the stove stay clear so you can actually use it. The point is this: you are leaving a margin for ease. That margin is where peace slips in. Try this today. Walk into any room in your house and pick one surface, a shelf, a drawer, even your desk. Now remove items until that surface is only about 80% full. That empty space is not wasted. It is the room your eyes and your brain need to finally rest. That is the power of Hara Hachibu for the home. Now principle number 5. Danshari, a game-changing philosophy that might just be the single most important mental shift you make this year. This word breaks down into 3 smaller concepts. Dan meaning to refuse, Sha meaning to discard, and Rai meaning to separate. Together, they form a complete system for dealing with the overwhelming tide of stuff that enters our lives. The surprising detail here is that Danshari is not just about physical clutter. It is about the invisible weight, the guilt, the obligation, and the anxiety you carry because of objects that no longer serve you. The first part, refuse, is your first line of defense. It is training yourself to say no at the point of entry. Before accepting a free tote bag or an impulse buy at the checkout line, you pause and ask a simple question. Does this genuinely add value to my life, or am I just inviting future clutter? This part alone, practiced consistently, will likely cut the number of things entering your home in half within a month. The second part, discard, is where the physical release happens. This is the active process of looking at your current belongings and letting go of anything that is creating mental or physical weight. And the third part, separate, is the deepest and most radical. It is about detaching from the constant craving for more. It is a mindset shift from materialism to contentment. When desire softens, life becomes quiet and spacious in a way that no single decluttering session can achieve. Now here is where the science steps in. A 2015 study from the University of New Mexico found that physical clutter is directly linked to decreased life satisfaction and a sense of being psychologically overwhelmed. And on the flip side, research out of Princeton University Neuroscience Institute showed that participants working in an organized, clutter-free environment had markedly better focus and lower stress than those in a messy space. The Japanese have understood this intuitively for centuries. Danshari is not a trendy minimalism fad. It is a quiet, daily practice rooted in Zen philosophy, a recognition that outer order contributes to inner calm. I witnessed the full force of this during a visit to a friend in Osaka, who had just spent an entire weekend doing a Danshari purge. She told me that as she threw away clothes she never wore, she also felt herself letting go of old insecurities, old versions of herself she no longer needed to hold on to. She was literally lighter. I remember sitting on her tatami floor, watching her hold up a blouse she had worn to a job interview years ago. And she paused. I saw the flicker of emotion cross her face, the memory of who she was back then, and then she gently placed it in the donation bag. She said, This blouse was my armor for a job I didn't even want, and I've been carrying that energy in my closet ever since. That moment reframed everything for me. Discarding was not about waste, it was about releasing old stories. When I tried it myself, I started with my kitchen drawers. I took out every single utensil, every gadget, every roll of plastic wrap, and I held each one. For each, I asked, does this help the current version of me live well? The garlic press I had used once in 3 years went into a donation box. So did the novelty ice cream scoop and 3 extra spatulas. That night, opening the drawer to grab a spoon, I felt a tiny burst of peace. No digging, no clatter, just what I needed right there. I want to offer one honest caution with Danshari. If you have ever experienced loss, or if certain objects are tied to grief, the discarding phase can trigger strong emotions that feel overwhelming. Do not force it. The beauty of Danshari is that it works gently, over time. You can start with the refuse step for a month before even touching the discard step. The goal is never to traumatize yourself into a clean home. It is to free yourself, piece by piece, and that can only happen at a pace your heart is ready for. Try this. This week, pick one small area, maybe a bathroom cabinet or a nightstand. Take everything out, hold each item, and ask yourself if it genuinely serves you, or if it is just quietly adding weight to your day. Then let go. You will be shocked at how much lighter your mind feels after releasing even just a handful of objects. Awareness alone starts the process of release. Now onto principle number 4, and this one transforms cleaning from a chore you dread into a sacred ritual of renewal. It is called usauji. Literally translated, it means the big clean, but to call it just a deep clean is to miss the entire point. In Japan, this is an annual tradition performed at the end of the year, but its real purpose is far deeper than dusting. It is a symbolic act of purifying your home, sweeping away the bad energies and accumulated heaviness of the previous 12 months, and welcoming fresh good fortune into the new cycle. Think of it as a total reset button for your home and your soul. The surprising mechanism is that usauji is not about scrubbing harder or being more efficient. It is about setting aside intentional time to attend to every corner you usually ignore. The tops of door frames, the back of the refrigerator, the insides of light fixtures, and approaching the task not as punishment, but as a form of care. This shift from obligation to ritual is what changes everything. A 2012 study published in the Japanese Journal of Health and Human Ecology found that individuals who engaged in thorough, ritualistic cleaning practices experienced significant reductions in anxiety and reported higher levels of psychological clarity compared to those who merely did routine household chores. The act of engaging deeply with your environment, wiping away months of unseen dust, has a direct effect on the brain. It creates a tangible sense of a fresh start, which is something our minds absolutely crave. There is also a neurological explanation. The repetitive motions of wiping, polishing, and sweeping can induce a meditative state, lowering prefrontal cortex activity and giving the mind a gentle reset. I experienced my first true usauji in the home of a Japanese family I was staying with in Tokyo. It was December 29th, and the air outside was crisp with the promise of snow. The whole family woke up early, and each person took a section of the house. The father was on the veranda, scrubbing every inch with a small brush. The grandmother was carefully cleaning the Buddhist altar, her hands moving in slow, practiced circles over the dark wood. The children were dusting their own rooms. It was not frantic. It was almost meditative. They played calm music, a soft koto melody drifting through the house. They talked quietly, and they moved with a sense of purpose I had never seen applied to housework. I was assigned the windows, and at first I felt a little annoyed. Cleaning windows was always a chore. But then I noticed the ritual. A bucket of warm water, a splash of vinegar, a soft cotton cloth. And the methodical way they expected you to clean first the frame, then the glass, then the sill, in that order. For the first time, I cleaned not to finish but to be present while doing it. The repetitive motion of wiping the glass, the cool air seeping through the edge of the pane, the gradual reveal of a crystal-clear view of the bare winter trees beyond, it all became a kind of moving meditation. At the end of the day, the house did not just look clean. It felt like it had been renewed, and I felt renewed with it. I have since adopted this practice, but not just at the end of the year. I do a mini usauji whenever I feel stuck or heavy, a kind of cleansing when my mind needs a new chapter. And I want to add a small honest caution here. Usauji is powerful, but if you have never done it, the scale can feel intimidating. You do not need to clean the entire house in one day, especially if you have a large home. It is perfectly in keeping with the spirit of usauji to break it into smaller, intentional sessions over a week. The key is the reverence, not the deadline. Try this. Choose a day in the next month, block off half a day, and perform your own usauji. Pick a room or your entire home. Do not rush. Attend to the ignored corners. Fix the squeaky hinge. Wipe the baseboards. When you are done, open the windows and let the breeze sweep through. You will feel the difference instantly. It is not just a clean home. It is a clean mental slate. We are moving now to principle number 3. And this one is a brilliantly practical system that started in the Japanese workplace and works perfectly in your house. It is called the 5S method. These are 5 Japanese words that translate to sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. Together, they create a natural, unbeatable path through any cluttered space. And once you learn it, you will never look at a messy room the same way again. The surprising detail is that the 5S method does not require any special motivation or emotional spark. It is a purely logical, step-by-step process that your brain can follow even on a day when you have zero energy. That is its genius. It removes the emotional exhaustion from organizing. Step 1, sort. This is where you go through every single item in the area you are tackling and ruthlessly decide what actually belongs there. Broken items, duplicates, things you have not used in a year, they all go. In Japan, this step is often done by removing everything from the space and only putting back what passes the test. It is like defragging a computer. You clear the junk before anything else. When I did this with my pantry, I found 3 half-empty bags of the same type of rice, expired spice blends from a holiday I barely remembered, and a sticky honey jar that had been hiding in the back corner for who knows how long. Seeing everything together on the kitchen counter was a sobering visual map of my own disorganization, and it made the next step feel urgent and liberating. Step 2, set in order. Now you assign a logical, permanent home for everything you are keeping. The key is that the home must make the item easy to retrieve, easy to use, and critically, easy to return. In a Japanese office, you will see labeled outlines on the desk, so every pen and stapler has a visible place. At home, the same principle applies. Your scissors live in one spot. Your charger cables are not in 3 different drawers. Everything has its own territory. When I applied this to my kitchen, I put all baking supplies in one bin, all snacks in another, and I used small containers to corral loose packets of tea that had been migrating across the shelves. Step 3, shine. Now that the space is decluttered and organized, you clean it fully. This step is crucial because it creates a standard of care. When a space is pristine, you are far less likely to let clutter creep back in. You are setting a new baseline. The smell of a freshly wiped pantry, the smoothness of a clean shelf under your fingertips, these sensory rewards reinforce the behavior. Step 4, standardize. This is the rule-making phase. You create simple routines and visual cues to maintain the order. For example, a rule that all flat surfaces get cleared before bed, or a rule that mail gets sorted immediately and never forms a pile. These tiny rituals prevent entropy. I made a rule that every Saturday morning I would spend 5 minutes scanning my desk for anything that had wandered out of place. 5 minutes, no more, to realign with the standard. Step 5. Sustain. This is the hardest part and the most rewarding. It is turning the whole thing into a habit so deep you do it without thinking. It is the difference between a crash diet and a lifestyle change. A series of workplace studies out of the University of Tokyo have shown that environments organized using the 5S framework lead to measurably lower error rates and reduced time spent searching for items. Your home is your primary worksite, whether you are cooking, dressing, or just relaxing. When you remove the friction of lost keys and missing documents, you free up massive mental bandwidth. The first time I applied 5S was to my home office desk, which had become a dumping ground. I took everything off, broken pens gone, duplicate sticky note pads donated. Then I assigned each remaining item a dock. My earbuds went into a small ceramic dish by the monitor. Essential pens went into a vertical holder on the right. I labeled nothing, but I took a photo so I would remember the standard. Then I shined the whole desk, wiped down the screen, vacuumed the crevices. The first week I had to consciously follow my own rules, but by week 3, the habit was automatic. The real shock came a month later when I realized I had not once had that frantic morning scramble for a document. The desk stayed clean because I had built a system that made it easier to be tidy than messy. I do want to add a small caution. The 5S method can feel very rigid, even corporate, when you first read about it. You might think, I don't want my home to feel like a factory floor, but here is what I learned. The structure itself creates freedom. You do not have to label every bin with plastic tags. You can use a pretty wooden box or a ceramic bowl. You do not have to make it look clinical. The spirit of 5S is that order flows from intention, not from uniformity. Adapt it to your own aesthetic. The bones of the system work regardless of the skin you put on it. Try this. Apply the 5S method to just one drawer this week. Your junk drawer, your bathroom drawer, any small enclosed space. Follow the 5 steps in order. It should take less than 30 minutes. Notice how you feel the next time you open that drawer and your hand goes straight to what you need without any hesitation. That feeling is the gift of a system working for you. Then imagine that rigor applied to your whole home, one drawer at a time. Principle number 2 has a name you may have heard before, but the depth of it is often missed. KonMari. This is the organizing philosophy created by Marie Kondo, a Japanese tidying expert. The core idea is wonderfully simple, yet profoundly transformative. You keep only the things that spark joy. But KonMari is much more than a catchy phrase. It is a step-by-step ritual of deep self-reflection. The method requires that you tidy by category, not by location. You start with clothes, then books, then papers, then miscellaneous items, and finally sentimental items, in that exact order. This structure is intentional because clothes are the easiest to make decisions about, and sentimental items are the hardest. You build your letting go muscle as you go. Now the surprising mechanism is not the physical act of discarding. It is the act of holding each item in your hands and asking your body and your heart, does this spark joy? The question bypasses logic entirely. It forces you to tune into a feeling, a subtle lift, a quiet little yes. If the answer is no, you thank the item for its service and release it without guilt. This tiny moment of gratitude is crucial. It reframes the act of letting go not as waste, but as honoring the item's role in your life up to that point and allowing it to move on. Your home becomes a curated collection of things that actively make you feel good, rather than a museum of past selves and unfulfilled intentions. A 2021 study published in the Journal of Happiness Studies found that individuals who practice decluttering with a focus on emotional resonance, similar to the KonMari method, reported not only lower stress, but also a greater sense of personal autonomy and satisfaction in their daily environments. The research highlighted that the key variable was not the amount of stuff discarded, but the conscious reflection on why items were kept. That conscious reflection is what rebuilds your relationship with your belongings. I attempted my first KonMari festival on a rainy weekend in November. I gathered every article of clothing I owned and dumped it all onto my bed in a mountain. The sheer volume was embarrassing. I held up a shirt I had not worn in 2 years and realized it sparked no joy at all. It sparked guilt because a friend had given it to me. I held it, I thanked it, and I placed it in the donation bag. I repeated this with dress after dress, old jeans, socks with holes I was keeping for no reason. I remember touching the worn-out cuff of a favorite sweater I had outgrown, and feeling a rush of nostalgia so strong it almost stopped me. I thanked that sweater for keeping me warm through a difficult winter, and then I let it go with tears in my eyes. It sounds dramatic, but the release was real. By the end, I had removed over 60% of my clothing, yet I felt richer. Each piece remaining was something I loved, something I would actually wear tomorrow. My closet was breathing. The next morning, getting dressed was not a negotiation, but a simple selection of joy. It sounds almost silly to say that a closet can change your morning mood, but it did. The quiet, the spaciousness, the colors of the clothes I kept all working together. It turned a daily chore into a moment of self-expression. And I must share an honest caution here, because KonMari is emotionally intense. When you start handling every item, memories surface, and some of them can be painful. There is a risk of getting stuck, of feeling overwhelmed by grief or regret. If that happens, it is okay to pause, to put the category away and come back to it later. Joy is a gentle guide, not a drill sergeant. Do not force yourself to discard something before you are ready. The process is meant to be a slow, loving reconnection with your belongings, not a punitive purge. Try this. Even if you do not do a full KonMari festival, pick your clothes today. Take out just your tops and hold them one by one. Ask the spark joy question. Keep only what elicits a real, felt response. Then hang them back in your closet with space around each hanger. Notice how you feel the next time you stand there choosing an outfit. That is the piece of a home that actively supports you. And now we arrive at principle number 1, the single most important Japanese concept that will change your home forever, and likely your entire outlook on consumption. The word is motenai. This word is often translated simply as "what a waste," but that translation misses its soul. Motenai conveys a deep, genuine sense of regret over the waste of resources, of potential, of life. It is an expression of profound respect and even reverence for the inherent value in all things. In Japan, this concept is woven into daily life from childhood. You are taught not to leave a single grain of rice in your bowl, not because your parents are strict, but because that rice represents sunlight, water, and someone's labor. The essence of motenai is that everything deserves to be used to its fullest. And to discard something while it still has use is a genuine loss. The surprising mechanism is that motenai does not just lead to less waste. It fundamentally rewires your brain from being a passive consumer to being an active caretaker of the objects in your life. Before you buy something new, you instinctively ask, can what I already have be repaired, repurposed, or reimagined? When you do finally let something go, you do so with gratitude and a sense of transferring its value, not just dumping it in a trash can. This shift transforms your home from a waste station for disposable goods into a place where objects are honored and maintained. The data on waste here is staggering. The average American generates nearly 5 pounds of solid waste every single day, much of it straight to landfills. Japan, a densely populated nation, has one of the highest recycling rates in the world and an entire cultural movement around Matanai, championed even by figures like the late Nobel laureate Wangari Maathai, who urged the world to adopt this concept as an environmental principle. But on a personal level, a study from Kyoto University found that individuals who expressed Matanai sentiments and practiced reuse and repair in their homes reported higher levels of life satisfaction and a stronger sense of connection to their community. The act of caring for your things is also an act of caring for the world around you. I watched this in action in a friend's home in Kyoto. Her grandmother had a wooden tray that was over 50 years old. It had been repaired multiple times, but not hidden repairs. The cracks were filled with gold lacquer in the practice of kintsugi, making the history of the object visible and beautiful. The gold seams shimmered softly against the dark wood, and holding that tray felt like holding a piece of family memory. My friend explained that the tray was not just a tray. It held family stories. To replace it with a new plastic one would be a kind of loss, a Matanai feeling. She then showed me a ceramic bowl with a hairline crack repaired in the same way, and she used it daily. It was more beautiful because of its history. I came home and looked at a chipped mug I was about to throw away. Instead, I kept it as a pen holder on my desk. It has a small chip, but now I see it every day and smile. It is no longer trash. It is a functional, charming part of my space. I also started a small repair kit. A needle and thread, wood glue, and a little jar of gold mica powder for my own kintsugi attempts. The first time I repaired a saucer with gold epoxy, it felt almost ceremonial. I was not just fixing a broken thing. I was giving it a new story, and I was slowing down my own impulse to replace and forget. I want to offer a gentle caution about Matanai. In our Western culture, the pressure to be perfect, to have flawless new things, is immense. When you begin to practice Matanai, you will feel that pressure push back. You might hesitate to use a visibly repaired bowl when guests come over, worrying they will think you are careless or poor. That worry is just the old mindset talking. The truth is, a repaired item is a badge of honor, a testament to care. But if you are not ready for that conversation, start small. Repair something just for yourself, something only you will see. Build your Matanai muscle in private until the confidence grows. Try this. This week, find one object in your home you are about to throw away. Before you do, pause and ask, can this be repaired? Can it serve another purpose? Can someone else use it? Then act on that impulse. Fix the loose chair leg. Turn the old t-shirt into a cleaning rag. Offer the extra set of bowls to a neighbor. Notice how it shifts your relationship with that object and with your home. You are no longer a disposer. You are a steward. This is the heart of Matanai, and once you feel it, the frenzy to buy more and accumulate more starts to quiet down. These 6 Japanese principles, from the 80% capacity rule to the sacred big clean, from the Danshari refusal of excess to the joy-centered curation of KonMari and the reverence of Matanai, are not about achieving a sterile, empty house. They are about discovering that simplicity is actually a profound form of generosity to yourself. You do not need to adopt all of them at once. Pick the one that resonated most with you today, just one, and try it for 7 days. Notice how it changes not just your physical space, but how you feel when you walk through your front door. Because ultimately, a peaceful home is not defined by the number of things you own or the size of your rooms. It is defined by the ease you feel within your own walls. It is the deep breath you take when you come home and know that you have found your place in the world. The objects around you are secondary. The real transformation is in the clarity, calm, and intention that begin to fill the space where clutter used to live. And perhaps, as you tidy your physical world, you will find that you are also tidying something far deeper and more important within yourself.